Доброго дня всім, хто
Good afternoon, everybody who joined us today here and who's watching us online. My name is Maria Veselovska. I'm a coordinator of the Women Lead Program NDI Ukraine. We have Olga Kupryan, writer specialist on children reading. Irina Nikolaichuk, literary critic, lecturer, publishing specialist, co-founder of Creative Women Publishing House. Hello. Lilia Omelianenko, co-founder of the Wydawnictwo Publishing House. Soon we will be joined by Katerina Prima, co-founder of Women's Veteran Movement. We are looking forward to see her, but we will start now. So you're welcome here, and we will be speaking about inclusion and equality, and it is impossible without engaging women on all stages of decision making. And this equality and inclusion is impossible without talking about titanic efforts by Ukrainian women that bring the victory closer, who protect our fighting on the front line. And this is not the first effort like that, and a couple of years ago we published a 2-volume book. That's her she's doing that. That's the name of the book, and it contained lots of stories, and a lot happened since then, and tens of thousands of Ukrainian women went to the front line to defend our army, to defend our country, and it was very important for us to support this project. This book, She is Fighting, is published through the Wydawnictwo Publishing House, supported by the Swedish government and National Democratic Institute. And I would like to ask Lilia to tell the story behind that project. Thank you very much. Well, what a project we're talking about? She's fighting, or she's doing that? She is fighting. Okay. In 2018, as Maria said, we had a huge and very successful project due to the engagement by the National Democratic Institute, and we are grateful to them for that. And well, lots of bookstores have copies of this book, and we had stories about occupied territories when our readers found copies of that book in these bookstores on occupied territories, and it had bullet holes. So it's very important for us to publish Ukrainian books to make sure that Russia doesn't destroy that. And the idea about this book was conceived last year. We wanted to do a sequel for She's Doing That, but we were not sure. We were pretty confused about what to do next, and is there any future for our country, and is anybody going to be interested in these books, because it was very hard during the first few months. But then we saw that there is quite an interest among Ukrainian readers, and we appreciate your efforts, and thank you for buying our books. It's very important for us to keep the focus when we talk about the contribution by women into Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian politics in Ukraine. And now many women are fighting, and of course articles are published, films are produced, and we wanted to make a follow-up series about women because it ideally fit into the concept, and we decided to rename the book to come up with a different name. She is Fighting. Thank you very much. I think it wouldn't be possible without the support of the woman veteran movement. Hopefully Katrina will be able to join us today and we'll be able to listen to her. And she has a lot to say, but I would like to ask our authors that wrote the book, how did you come up with the characters and what was important for you? Well, as far as I'm concerned, my character, my protagonist is Irina Chornohus. This is a character behind, there's a real person behind the character. Well, actually, my colleague, my fellow student from Kyiv Mohyla Academy, and the student circle is a circle of friends where you know everyone, and it's a professional network, and also a circle of people who make a difference. And I was astonished that Irina, right after she graduated in 2014, she decided to join the army. First, she joined the Hospitaliers Battalion as a medic. Now she's on the front line. And Irina, apart from being a military servicewoman, she's a poet. She continues to write poems, and she published a collection of poems, The Defense of Presence, the poems she wrote when she was already on the front line. At the same time, she's a mother. And in 2014, she gave birth to a daughter, to a girl, and her daughter follows her on her military career. Now she's grown up and she understands quite a lot. And Irina is very open, writing about hardships of a woman during the war, being a mother, being a poet during the war, and she is able to combine all of these roles. So I wanted to write something about her as a sign of appreciation, because she is very open and honest about describing things she experiences, and it
Під час інтерв'ю, коли ми з нею спілкувалися, коли я писала текст, вона поділилася цим. Це для неї персонально надзвичайно важко, але це надзвичайно важлива робота для того, щоб жінки військові в українському суспільстві ставали видимішими, і причому не тільки як жінки військові, а як і жінки в інших своїх ролях, які вони дуже часто змушені поєднувати. Тому що ми говоримо про жінку, яка воює, про жінку зі зброєю, про жінку, яка руйнує стереотипи, про те, що жінкам не місце на війні і жінки не можуть воювати. Але ми не говоримо про те, що жінка може лишатися дружиною, може лишатися мамою, може лишатися фахівчиною в своїй сфері. І є фантастичні жінки, які примудряються поєднувати всі ці ролі. І які показують, наскільки справді, наскільки багато потужності, наскільки багато сили в українських жінках, які мало того, що
So that they dare not just continue their activities and be active in all their roles, but also fight with weapons in their hands. And words is the same kind of weaponry like javelins in her hands. And that's why I decided on my character from the very beginning. I hope that in my text, although it's a book for children, it was difficult for me to write children's texts because I more work with adult books and adult audience. Though I hope that I managed to demonstrate what kind of woman she is and how she fights. Thank you so much for sharing the story with us. It's good. It's important to talk about visibility today and visibility of women in the army, women in different occupations. They are fantastic women who do their job day to day, combining various capacities, various roles. I just wanted to say that there is a tip of the iceberg. People we see who is active in social media, who do a lot to be visible, but there are many people in the military who are moving that machine and they are not visible. And my character is among those people. Olena Zhagovska, she is a combat medic. When I proposed to Olena to write about her, she is a modest person, said, I do not do anything outstanding. I'm not writing about myself a lot, about my needs. Fortunately, there were no terrible events. I participated for the media, but that story of people who are, it looks like they are not doing anything, but they are pushing forward that machine, they must be visible because they don't want to show themselves. And when I talked to Olena about her day-to-day work, we understood that for kids it will be a story like of our everyday life story about the relations of a woman and a cat, about those household things in the army, and between your duties you can do important things and don't pay much attention to it. How many people you saved today? It's not a tremendous feat. I didn't destroy tanks. If you manage to highlight that side of women's participating in the military, I'll be really happy. Olga, thank you so much. We talked about how our authors picked up the characters. I would like to ask Lydia how that list was compiled. Was it difficult? And how you selected characters for your book? This is an important question. I think we'll have a lot of questions when the book is issued, because no list can be objective for everyone. They will ask questions why you have not included that person and you did include that person. And that list of characters, even now at the final stage of this project, is still not final, because it's influenced by many factors. If the project she did this and that, we had minor part of our participants. We found information, we wrote from several sources, we got advice from the historian. That's how it should be like. Now we are talking about women in very harsh conditions. Most of them are fighting, and sometimes, well, we cannot write stories about them without them. We have to take them on board, because the information now is a weapon. We cannot make mistakes and tell something which may pose threat to our characters, may be incorrect. So all stories in the book, the majority of those stories, about 90%, are based on the real interviews with those heroines, and we are trying to achieve approval of that final text from our characters, our heroes, so there are no mistakes. When we started working on that, we had some timeline, and we thought we will pick up like 25 or 30 of them. With 5 we may not have success, so at the end of the day we'll have 25 out of 30. And it appears that under present conditions everything is so unstable. Unstable that we have a real problem, that part of those heroes cannot be physically reached because they are at the front line, or when we're asking them for interview, it's not a priority for them, and we understand that we had to take them out of the list of protagonists. Why? Because sometimes we were waiting for months and we were able to reach them, so we kept them. And so that was an unstable situation. I'm really grateful to Katerina for her help, which the women's veteran movement provided to us to get those contacts, because majority of those contacts Katerina and her colleagues gave us. So when we engaged Katerina to the project, it started to moving forward much faster. It was important for us to demonstrate, like Oля rightly mentioned, there are posts which people see, and there are people who are working day to day. They don't write much on the media. They may not be fighting at the front line, but they help a lot in the rear. If I'm not mistaken, we'll have military financier among the characters. The person who helps to account everything, and this is really important today. The final list for us may be kind of surprise when we finalize it. I'm joking in some ways, because we have 90% of our characters. We're still moving ahead, and it was a difficult period of selecting. So when we don't get answers, we tried other protagonists, and so the list will be like it is. The people who we could reach, and those who thought they have a possibility to talk about it. So thank you, Lilia. Katerina Primak joined us, co-founder of Women's Veteran Movement. Let's greet her. Katerina, we were really looking forward for your visit. We are really grateful to Women's Veteran Movement for supporting us at various stages and helping us to compile lists of those characters. Why it was for you important for you to support this project? Sorry for being late. I'm really grateful for this initiative, for this project. Why it's important? Because we started in 2015 as Invisible Battalion. And women keep to be in the on the headlines, and what's important for the future, how we are talking to people, children, and several critically important issues intertwined here, and interactions. For us it was not easy, because the phenomenon of a military woman is that each story there is a story from the capital. These are special women. In order to achieve something at war, at the front, in the most traditional system, unflexible system, you have to be you have to have convictions and strength. We're not talking about many stories which unfortunately could be told, or the stories which you often see, but there are no real achievements behind them. So in our community, in our environment, we know who is worth what, and we're trying to share the stories which were unheard before, or repeat those which are worth to be repeated. This is a hard job, because those women continue fighting. It's burnout. It's lack of resources when you are focused on survival, on fighting, on interaction with people. It's a matter of life and death. So much less resource remains for telling stories. But for us as a community, This is extra important to remember, not every moment, but the more personalities, the more faces of this war, the more people, women's faces we show who are fighting this war. Anyway, the men are doing things, and then women are dealing with aftermath. It's important for humankind. So, thank you for this project, and that was the least we could do. So it was not that difficult. Thank you. Katerina is a very modest person. She didn't mention about her contribution. I would like to ask in more detail about it, because Lydia mentioned about that list of characters. It was hard to compile. So, Katerina, please tell us more about helping her to contact those characters. Was it difficult? And how those character lists were compiled? We were approached with some proposals. Yeah, that list was amended. For example, Andriana, the head of our community, she's a leader, was wounded, severely wounded, and that made communication difficult. Many women were not responding because they were overwhelmed with their duties, like Alina. I don't know actually whether we reached the point when we could interview her. She was really busy, so it was not successful. Those who are known for people, the topic of women is really on the top of the agenda, domestically and internationally. This is a good, healthy interest, because when the media are talking about nail polishing at the front and not focusing on their professional achievements, it's a real cringe. We should have fewer of that in the media, because it depreciates the work of women. When we are talking about the military, we should be mindful that unfortunately it's a heritage of the legacy of the Soviet Union, when the professionalism is not really a value, and we are just overcoming that problem from 2014, and we are rebuilding our army from that attitude when you have the boss and subordinates towards reforming it towards a teamwork, and women in the army is about that. From the professional standpoint, it shouldn't be like that. If you are a boy and you have not enrolled into university after high school, then you go to the army. So we switch from that attitude to focusing on soft skills, on professionalism, and mastering technologies and human rights in the first place. What's difficult here? All that burden is on the shoulders of women at the front line. And many resources are interested in them to tell them how they care about their manicure. But it's like information rubbish. So it's difficult to reach them. So it was quite an effort on behalf of NDI to convince them that this is not just the rubbish. And some we had to convince. It's good to be modest on one hand, but we were brought up in the Soviet Union that you should value modesty. And we see that not all are that competent and smart people who are famous. I mean, but those who are worth of something, they are modest, they are not bragging. So women should be encouraged to tell their stories, to convince them that those stories are interesting. That's the point. How that interest from on behalf of society should look like. It should be about professionalism, about the army we're building, the issue of defense capability in general. It's not about your underwear, manicure, and haircut, getting married in the army, and so on. These are the questions, unfortunately, which are addressed to women in the army. If we're showing children other narratives, the whole society will benefit from it, because human rights is not that simple. If we are talking how you can find your way in the society. So the more women we have in focus, the closer we are, I think, to this transition, those changes in the society. Thank you, Katerina. It's really inspiring. You're right. When our women are destroying stereotypes at the front, it's good that the media are not spread those stereotypes. I would like to talk about our characters. I would like to ask you, how did you approach to preparing texts? What was important for you to deliver to our readers about your characters? Olga?
Thank you.
Well, a couple of things. Well, first, I'm a children's writer, and that's my topic. And I need to know my target audience. So I'm just start with the topic, because the younger the child is, the more simple the text should be, like less terms, simple words. And I was lucky because the protagonist has a kitty, and everybody loves cats. This is how the story started. It just wound up around the cat that is just watching her owner do things. And the second thing that was important is a sense of humor, because we are complicated and the topics are complicated, but during the complex time we are able to find something funny. And humor in children's literature really helps. And again, I used the cat for the narrative, and this cat gets into trouble, and this is how I tell a story about more complicated things, about people who are wounded and their lives are saved. And it's easier to perceive it through the eyes of a cat. Thank you. Irina? Well, I already mentioned that, and it was quite a challenge for me to write a text for children. Well, I work with children, and I read a lot of children's literature. It's really hard for me to write something for kids. And I was thinking about Irina. I thought about how her story is multifaceted, and I didn't want to miss a thing. I wanted to include everything. I wanted to tell a story about her as a mother, as a poet, as a person that writes about women in the army and social media, and as a very sensitive personality that she is. So I really appreciate Valentina Stulska's efforts. She's an editor, and she really helped me to make sure that my text is smoother, and she gave me a lot of advice. And this is why I like cooperating with publishing houses. It's really a nice team of professionals. So no doubt about that. Katrina was right. No doubt about the fact that the publishing house is a good team of professionals, and they do understand what they're doing. It was not easy for me. And when I prepared for the interview, I was afraid to ask serious questions that maybe worded in a way that is not really proper. But I'm happy that I found the right language, and I think I did a good job creating the narrative. I will just put my 2 cents. I'm thankful to the authors for approaching the text in such a way. So there's a specific person writing about a specific character in order to open that character. And for us with Ilya, it was important when we conceived that book to make sure that despite the serious topic, it should be light, it should be inspiring, because in reality, no one should be part of the war, and the wars shouldn't exist. And anyway, people that read the book, they need to know about people that defend them on the front line. They need to be inspired with these protagonists, by these characters. And that's great that you try to incorporate humor to make it easier to read and to make it more positive. And if it's impossible, it's great that you mentioned Valia Zdulska, that is an editor of the book. She edits the text to make sure it can be read easily for teenagers, keeping it emotional. At the same time, every story is different. We don't have similar styles. Some people, they write it as non-fiction stories. Some people tell stories using animals, basically tell a story from, other creatures' perspective. And kids, they learn when they read. And the same approach we have in illustrations. We have different illustrations, but I'll be honest, for some characters, we've changed 3 illustrators. But some illustrators, they just can't do it. And sometimes we have to say goodbye when we see the drawings for the first time. But I hope that it just helps the project, just benefits the project. Thank you very much. You mentioned illustrations, and I think we can show a couple of illustrations for our viewers. Yeah, that's the most interesting thing. Can you please tell more about the illustrations that we are about to show on the screen? Please use the mic. I'm sorry for that. This is Valiko Korobkadze, and I think it's a very good illustration. Yeah, that was the point. That's what the process is about. Okay. So there was a lady, we haven't known her before, but we did a children book, and after that, after she did a good job, we invited her again. And Ilya wanted all illustrations to be positive, bright, easy, to make sure kids, despite the serious situation, they need to understand that life goes on. And we wanted to show our characters in the bright light. I don't know what to say. I just feel like like this Mr. Bean character speaking about the painting Whistler's mother. I don't know what to say. So this is another illustrator, Alexandra Giganska. She's an animator. She makes animated movies, and these drones, they create this dynamics, and they're making a sound, they're moving, and you can feel it. I think it's a very positive illustration. Well, Maria is always serious, so she made the character very serious. This is Elena Gerasimyuk. You know her. And the illustration is a bit untraditional. It's different from what we used to. But this Olga Kolesovska, she has a very particular style. Elena liked the illustrations very much because there's a lot of dynamics, and we can see her as a medic, as a volunteer, as a poet, and it's all here. It works very well. The idea is incorporated very well. Jana Czerwona, unfortunately, she's dead. And we've worked on the illustration a lot. Well, her code name is a witch. This is why she's in this role. And she's using a chicken bone. She's trying to dissolve the map of Russia in a cauldron. So yeah, well, it's a positive illustration. Irina Chornohus, that's Irina's character, by the way. So it's like very, very naive, and it looks cool. Yeah, that's the first illustration that we received, by the way. I like everything about it. What can I say? And you like it too, right? Thank you. Thanks a lot, Lilia. And you started talking about illustrations. So for those who is watching online and offline, there's a bit of surprise for you. Our authors prepared some text for you. They can read it, some excerpts from the book. Irina, thank you very much. So a couple of words about it. I was a bit confused, and actually she gave birth to a girl in 2014. This is why she couldn't join the army right after Maidan. She could do it in 2019, not 2014. So this is where the story begins in the army, and actually that excerpt that I'm going to read, because I think that's important to make that clarification, because out of respect, she will be listening to that. She read the text very carefully and she approved the illustration, and as Lila said, we need to respect that. Even if we make mistakes, we need to correct ourselves. 2019. The armor with an assault rifle presses on her shoulders. God knows how many more miles they have to cover with the reconnaissance team, and with each mile there is less and less ridicule. I wonder when this Yara with pigtails will whimper and give up. Are you a feminist? Some people ask indignantly, others are amazed. Or what? Yes, Yara answers, a feminist. The commander tells her to ignore them and to do her own thing, so she does. Yara with pigtails won't whimper and won't give up, even when the sword takes away her lover. Instead, she will make sure he's not forgotten, and she will melt the pain into poetry. 2020. The granite on Bankovo Street in front of the president's office is cold. The tent was also ripped off by the wind. But it's okay, Yara has seen a lot during her time in the army. She came out to protest because the government believes that it's worth continuing to be friends with Russia, a country that has seized Donbass and Crimea and is killing Yara's comrades every day. However, she's not alone. Although the world has been in pandemic lockdown, she's visited by her teachers and classmates. Yara, how we can help you? I don't know. And then the thought struck her. Let's read the poetry together. Friends come together, read poetry and draw posters. They even make fires in buckets, and the government listen to them. They start contemplating about it. But spring is coming to an end, and it's time to go back. A newly created Marine Battalion, new missions, and 3 years of exhausting works. September 2023. Yara is at the front line. The phone rings, Arisa is on the screen. How are things going at school? It's fine. It's fine, but yesterday I was walking down the corridor and heard something dismissive behind me. She's just so Ukrainian. Well, yeah, I am, but who are you? You're not Russians, apparently. It was so frustrating. Yara is boiling over. Many years ago, she heard the same thing at the Kiev school. Is everything still the same as it was then? Hasn't the war, pain and loss taught anyone anything? Are we still speaking the language of the occupier, listening to Russian music, being friends with those who are killing us? Yara sighs and opens Facebook. No, it's not like that now. You go down the streets of Kiev and you hear people speaking Ukrainian everywhere. There are only books in Ukrainian in bookshops, including your new collection of poems. You create a post and then back to shoot down tanks, because intolerance to injustice is also a defense. Thanks a lot. Olga, the floor is yours. Thank you. I'm going to read about Elena Jane Shergovska. Kitty, come here, you fluffy little ass. Where have you been wandering off to again? Frida was sitting behind the ammo box. Why would she respond to Kitty anyway? She has a name and her owner knows it. After all, it was she who came up with it. Frida was immediately decided that this little woman would become her owner. They both have short fur and they both have somehow got used to loud noises, although the cat still preferred to hide in the shelter when it happened. Frida, come out now, the owner called out. Some people called her Elena, but the soldiers call her Jane, her code name. All right, now we're talking. Mrr. Frida rubbed her right leg with an innocent look. Meow. Sure, she wasn't applying anything, but since last night the cat hasn't had a mouth in her mouth. There you are, the woman said, and lifted the kitty into her arms. Jane's voice was as quiet as Frida's. We'll cuddle first, then we'll have breakfast. The kitty didn't object. She rubbed gently against her owner's neck right next to the logo with a snake wrapped around the sword. Her human is a combat medic. She has a weapon, a bulletproof vest and a huge backpack with medical supplies. Frida kindly held up her left ear, implying that it could be scratched. Porthos appeared on the doorstep, looking sleepy. The big guy was named after one of the musketeers. Jane called him my squire. He did carry her weapons to and from the car. So how about some exercising? Porthos asked instead of saying hello. I've already done 3 pull-ups this morning, Jane said. I was lying in the bed, though, she added, laughing. Porthos muttered something and disappeared deep into the house. A moment later, a bubbling sound came from the bathtub as if someone was gargling. Finally, Frida got her breakfast, wagged her tail, and went to rest. Not only the owner has night duties. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Katerina, Olga, thank you very much for joining us today during this event. And instead of final words, I would like to read a poem written by Irina Cherny, who is the main character. It's called The Night. A friend and a foe. The night lifts up a locking bar over you, swings it down and knocks you knee-deep into the ground, like the serpent who is always defeated in the fairy tales. Who can defeat the night in the sky, though? You swing your weapon back and knock the night into the ground, ankle deep. The night clenches you in its fist in your dreams. It shows you the wounded in the battle, shows you the one it took away, shows you the street that ends with a checkpoint. The night lifts up the locking bar over you and knocks you waist deep into the ground. You hate the street it has shown you, for this street is in darkness. It is both your friend and your foe. And you wish you were walking with either one or the other, either friend or foe, but not with someone who is both. Morning comes and the sun hangs out its white flag in the sky. The night spreads its white darkness over the sun. The darkness swings and knocks me into the ground heart deep. I swing at the darkness and knock it into the ground shoulders deep. We look at each other, me and the darkness, standing in the ground, neck deep. It looks at me with its shoulders. I look at it with my heart. So we can see each other better. The darkness is my friend and my foe. It conceals my body and my movements. It rests its shoulders on my heart. Nothing can defeat the night in the sky. Neither of us will lay down our arms. I'm extremely thankful to you who joined us in the room and to those who watched us online. Dear participants, the media marathon, Equality in Politics and Inclusive Recovery is concluded. Thank you very much for being here. The media marathon is organized by the National Democratic Institute, funded by USAID and US government as part of the project participation in Ukrainian recovery. Swedish government and UKAID, we're not saying goodbye, we're saying until next time.